to the 44th episode of Talkin Toros. We're your unofficial Chicago Bulls podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Talkin Toros. That's with no G. I am one of your co-hosts, Myles Phelps. You can find me on Twitter at mphelps11. With me, as always, Adam Brown. He's at Souvenir City. And Luis Medina. He's at LCM 1986. Got the fly flat bell hat on. Looking good today, Lou. It's been some time since we have all been together and recorded. 2020 has really just gotten the best of us, but we are embarking on a new era for the Chicago Bulls. And I just wanted to start today off by saying how excited I am watching that draft recently, thinking about the ins and outs of what this front office want to do, which we really don't even know yet. It's all really, really exciting, and there's a lot of unknowns. So I'm just pumped to talk about, a new direction. All the bad people are gone. They can't hurt us anymore. Now it's just about moving forward and trying to see, if we can put together a team that is going to potentially compete in the playoffs year after year. But before we get to all that, we're going to talk about the Bulls draft. We're going to talk about a lot of the movement that's happened in free agency, a lot of busy stuff going around in the NBA. But before we get to that, let's check in with Lou and Adam here. How you guys doing? It's been some time.
Surviving. Just got to get through this week. Got to get to Thursday. I'm looking forward to frying the turkey and making some other treats and just spending some downtime with the TV.
Yeah, man, I'm happy it's a holiday week. I'm happy to be here with you guys I'm trying to think of the last 44, and I think it's Nikola Mirotic. So this is our Nikola Mirotic episode.
It is Nico.
Yeah, so this is the Nico episode. We can talk about... all right, let me finish this sentence before you guys jump all over me. I think that Bulls fans and Knicks fans are living a similar existence this offseason in that we're waiting for the other shoe to drop because, as Myles said, the bad man can't hurt us anymore. And the relative quietness... We should hang a banner for within the first 24 hours of free agency, we didn't do anything stupid.
I actually did raise a banner and had a ceremony in the alley and everything. It was great.
Yeah, I mean,
seriously though,
I think I'm crazy, but whatever.
Base level competence is fun.
Yeah, it is. It is funny thinking about just the different mindset. I have a really good buddy of mine who's in my wedding, and we text all the time about the Bulls, and it's we have to get out of the mindset of oh, here we go again, drafted an all-around person that, is super athletic. We're going to try to bring him into the NBA slowly. It felt like a Gar pick, the Patrick Williams one, but it's not, and there's got to be some other things going on. And I see what you're doing, Lou. We'll get to that. But
we can talk about how Tyrese Thomas has entered the chat and all the other crap that people said when he was drafted, but we'll get to that later.
It's not even that. Exactly. It's not a car pick.
Okay, well, we'll get to that, Lou. We'll get to that. Hold that thought. So we're going to talk about the Bulls draft pick, and we'll talk about some other stuff that they did, and then we'll get into the NBA. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's happened, but definitely thankful on this Thanksgiving week to be with you guys and talking some basketball again. So let's do it. All right, so Patrick Williams, he was number 4 overall pick from FSU. He came off the bench there, which, I think had a lot of people kind of raising a little bit of their eyebrows, wondering what was going on there. He also flew up the draft board, and again, I'm not a draft expert. I'm aggregating what I've read over the past week. He flew up the draft board. He was around that 7 or 8 range, I think, initially. And what really got him to the point where he was at that number 4 was just the versatility. People didn't really know what the position was that he was going to play, which sometimes can be a good thing and tells you that, you might not even know what you've got until he's actually on the floor. So I think there's a lot of stuff that is good about this pick and exciting, but let's go back to my initial comment just to clarify with Lou. So I'd mentioned that this kind of seemed like a Gar pick. And the only reason I said that is because there wasn't a definitive, hey, this is what this person is on the board. It was hey, do you want to draft Tony Snell and then make him a spot-up shooter? He plays really good defense. He's a really good try-hard, and that's the first place that I went to of I don't know anything about this dude. He came off the bench. They say that he's X, Y, and Z, but I don't know. So at first glance, I had that was my gut reaction. And then again, like I said at the beginning of the pod, I have to bring myself back down to earth. It might not be that way. This might be a good pick, but I'll put that back onto you guys. Maybe we'll start with Lou here. What was your thought on just the pick and how the draft went overall for the Bulls?
Yeah, so I didn't think it was a guard pick because didn't fit the guard mode. I mean, this guy's athletic. He's got length. He's young. He's a raw, moldable guy. Those aren't the kind of guys that the Bulls have drafted, especially recently. They've been kind of cookie cutter with their draft philosophy. They love high major, multi-year experience. In NCAA basketball and in the tournament,
high floor, low ceiling.
High floor, low ceiling. It's those picks became predictable. So I think part of the reason people generally had a backlash to the pick is that it's not what they were used to, and it's not a name that was mocked a lot to the Bulls. Our guy Mark Sylvie was talking about it's good to go off the board sometimes because this is why you hired new guys, right? To go off the board and pick the right players. Now, the Tyrese Thomas thing, the other comps. I remember the first time I started reading up on the guy because KC started tweeting about him. And once KC starts tweeting about a guy, you kind of know maybe something's up there. I felt the Tyrese Thomas comps because just the raw, moldable. He doesn't do anything exceptionally well. He does several things good. I'm not necessarily concerned about his coming off the bench in college because he's a guy who, like, college, like, they give starts to guys just because they're seniors. So, like, I'd rather have a guy, we've talked about this in regular season games, I'd rather have a guy who finishes games than starts games. So that, to me, that's more important. But to me, bigger picture, because I don't want to rail against the kid. I don't really want to rail against the pick. Because I want the guy to succeed. I want the Bulls to succeed. I see this pick, big picture, as a sign that there are going to be some trying times for this Bulls team in the short term. And because by the time he develops into the player you expect to take with the fourth pick, it's going to take some time. And before we start talking playoffs, I want to preach patience with this pick because this is why you hired AK. It's why you hired Eversley, is to bring fresh blood, get new perspectives, and bring new guys along. And that's why you hired Billy Donovan to develop these guys. Like, I'm going to give these guys a chance to fail before I, start calling for jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to...
Yeah, it's their first pick.
Just to second, your point on what he is, like, I think a lot of the boards were saying that he doesn't do any one thing amazingly well. Not an amazing shooter, not an amazing defender, not an amazing person like off the ball, but like he does a lot of things pretty well. And for a 19-year-old, that's ideal. Like, you don't want a finished product at 19. You want somebody, like you said, that Billy Donovan can mold. And so that's exciting. AB, what'd you think?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I did not watch a lot of Florida State basketball, despite being trapped in my house for a lot of the pandemic, although college basketball ended when the pandemic happened. But like, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, I can tell you that much, which really is not much at all. I've seen some clips, some highlights that they decided to put on the internet about Patrick Williams. My questions with Pat are, what is his future position? Because in a lot of the scouting reports that you read, it's that he's a little bit slow laterally. So will he be able to play in a switching defense and stick with wings off the dribble? Or is he more of a four? Because you can see it in the body. I mean, there is no doubt that the kid has the body and the frame to play in the NBA. It's funny you mentioned Tony Snell earlier. Just real quick about Tony Snell, we should just congratulate the man on escaping the Central Division. He is no longer a part of it. He has finally left. But no, seriously, Tony Snell was a wiry body.
Screw Tony Snell. I'm not going to congratulate him. Like, he's been in like really, really good team for the past like 2 or 3 years. And like, yeah, I know he had to stop in Detroit, but like, I know he had to stop in Detroit, but like, dude, you were supposed to be a shooter. You were supposed to be like the definition of 3-and-D before it was like cool. So get bent. See you later.
3-and-D.
But at least he's now in Atlanta.
Yeah,
I mean, but seriously, the positioning for Williams is my biggest thing. Yeah, he's on the Hawks now.
I'm out on that.
Positioning will be interesting, but again, I think that's kind of like Lou said it perfect. I mean, it's they have a chance until they don't. It's the Theo Epstein rule that I initiated with the Cubs.
I kind of want to talk big picture about where he was picked at 4, because I don't know about you guys. 1, 2, 3 played out exactly how I think most people thought it would in some order, with obviously Wiseman, Ball, and Edwards going in the top 3. But like the draft beginning at 4, the thing that I really liked about this draft, and I know Myles just mentioned Theo, nobody really knew what Chicago was going to do. And that there are no leaks in this ship is something that we should welcome, because I would much rather have the league guessing, like, yeah, I like getting those little nuggets in the media just as much as every other fan does, knowing what my team is doing. The less I know exactly about what the Bulls are doing, probably for the better. It maintains their leverage in so many different spots and transactions.
Yeah, so long as they don't do
no draft promises.
Yeah, no draft promises was great.
Right.
That was awesome. Like, not hearing the Bulls connected to a guy that they promised that warmed my heart.
Yeah, was there a guy from New Mexico State or New Mexico that was in the top 10? Because if he was, Gar would have been all over it.
Halliburton.
Yeah. So the other thing that the Bulls did was they signed. I correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but Dotson was the top ranked undrafted person after the draft, correct?
Yeah, he's the guy who I thought was going to get drafted.
Yeah, and so he went undrafted out of Kansas. The Bulls nabbed him. They also stashed a guy that I'd never heard of, Marko Simonovic. So that's something that will be cool to see.
Do you know the story about draft night and what happened with his name?
No, please share.
So there is another Marko Simonovic who was being Googled, because when you Google his name, the first guy that shows up is some 35-year-old dude in Spain, because there's just more content on the internet about a 35-year-old than some 21-year-old. I don't even know how old the one we drafted is, or we have the rights to, but people were like, oh my God, is it Gar? Because we did draft some fucking weirdo because Gar and Pax would have picked the wrong one. They would have submitted the wrong birth date or whatever and fucked that pick up.
They'd have pulled a Kenny Williams. Trade for the wrong prospect.
Yes. Because what was the name of the prospect that he traded for that had the same name as his brother or whatever?
Yeah, I forgot who it was, but yeah, it was the same name as his brother, and they got the wrong dude.
Yeah.
So it looks like the guy that is being Googled is the 6'8" Serbian, 34 years old.
Yeah.
He also was drafted in 08. So this is really, really funny. I didn't know that.
You didn't know this? Oh, yeah.
I was kind of excited that the Bulls drafted a 34-year-old. As a 34-year-old, I'm like, hey, maybe.
I still got it.
Still got it, baby. There's still a chance.
Yeah. So then the other thing that they did, and this was in free agency, but they signed Garrett Temple to the mid-level extension. Exception, sorry. And what else? I think that's all the moves that they made. So I guess
that is the entirety of the Bulls transaction.
Yeah, which is, it's not exciting, but they very clearly have a plan. They going into this, and I think that we just don't know what it is. But what do you guys think?
I think I know what it is.
Well, okay, so my next question was, what did we learn from this front office, if anything, after the draft and after we've initiated free agency?
They are in a building mode.
That is one thing for sure, Lou.
Think about just like. I'm a big guy, so I've been having this conversation with a friend of mine recently. And it's people will tell you everything you need to know about them if you listen. If you allow yourself to listen, you will learn everything you need to know. But also, actions speak louder than words. So I see the Bulls' actions, and I see a team that realizes that it needs to build up. We saw with Garpax for so long the need to tinker here and there and hope and try and grasp at straws. This group it's early, doesn't look like they're grasping at straws. It looks like they're building something. They take the raw, moldable, athletic guy with upside with the 4th pick. They don't sell off the 2nd round pick and instead use it on a guy who's stash worthy. When was the last time we had a stash worthy guy to talk about, let alone one that was worth it? So you see that.
The episode we're on.
Stack up Garrett Temple, who's a presentable NBA backcourt reserve. These Bulls are building. What they are building to isn't going to be something that we find out at the end of this year or maybe next year. It might be 3 years. But we are at the ground level of something that is growing. And as a fan, that's always exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's like a land of opportunity. Like anything is possible at this point, and we don't really know what it's leading to. But all of the pieces, I don't know why, but it reminds me so much of the Cubs and just adding pieces when they can, knowing that they weren't going to, maybe they weren't going to do pitching through the draft. Maybe they were like, however you want to look back on that time frame, and we can nitpick it now from a baseball perspective, but all I'm saying is that it just reminds me so much of having someone not capable to someone capable with the plan in place to know that we're hopefully moving forward.
I agree with you that there's definitely some similarities, I think, in the
Well, I think I accidentally muted AB instead of myself. Go and do that.
Okay. Well, no, I think that they're a data gathering group, Myles, and I think that they are taking the time to evaluate the assets they have. And right now, they have 2 weeks of minicamp and a bubble by water tower. That is basically the amount of data they have, and what they did under Jim Boylan, which I think it's pretty safe to say on that end that they are pretty skeptical about what they saw under Boylan, because the players just kind of checked out after a little while. I think we can all admit that took place, and Boylan was a bad influence. To what degree, we can argue, but he was not good. But they really don't know what they have on this team. Whereas the analogy with the Cubs, I feel like they came in and stripped everything down, and they knew that they didn't have a lot of assets that were up and coming. I think the Bulls have some assets that will at least they think can develop into, cornerstone pieces, whether that's a franchise player or a rotation piece or whatever. I think they're going to figure out this year that the young players that they have on this roster, they are going to determine who is going to be here for the future, who is not going to be, but they're not in a rush to do it. I know Lou's been preaching patience the whole show, but he's right. They are really going to watch this team, see if there's chemistry that exists right now. If there is, great. Let's figure out how to add to it. If there's not, which I think the three of us probably believe that this is not a winning basketball team. If there's not, what pieces of this can be a winning basketball team in the future that are still cost controlled and somewhat inexpensive, and which ones are about to get paid? Zach LaVine, Otto, those guys. Which one of those do we need to move on from in a quick fashion and try to maximize that asset as much as we can?
Yeah, I think AB made the point right there. And they're going to see this out. They're going to let this play out. Myles, I wanted to co-sign on your Cubs comp, but more of a modern comp. Like, they're gonna let these guys prove to them who's worth staying, who's worth sticking around. Or
#want.
think about #want. Or if we think about it in a more basketball term, just think of last year's Thunder team. Think about how that developed. Billy Donovan did what, obviously Chris Paul being there helps the situation, but they saw a lot of what they liked and what they didn't like, and they made moves this offseason to reflect what their future was going to be. I can see the Bulls in the same situation the Thunder are in next year, but with younger pieces, and they don't have the star power to trade from, but they've got some usable pieces, obviously, with Zach LaVine being at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's. I think you guys have taken my point and made me able to clarify. Like, yeah, it's different for sure because of, like AB said, the asset thing. Like, the Bulls have assets. We just don't know what we got. And I think what's so intriguing about this front office is that they didn't come in and just be like, this guy doesn't play basketball in the style that I want. He's gone. This guy, it's like, here's a good example. When Mike Martz came in with the Bears, who did he trade immediately without even seeing him play? Greg Olson. What did Greg Olson become?
He let Olson play a year, but you're on the right track.
I'm on the right track, Lou. Give me a break here. Where it's like, these guys haven't even, like, they haven't seen anybody play in a new system with a capable head coach. So let's roll the dice, see what we've got. And, I'm just repeating what you're saying now, Lou. It's a rebuilding thing. It's they know that they might not compete, but maybe they will. Maybe they're the Thunder, like you said.
Retooling.
Retooling. Yes. Love it.
I don't even
All
want to
right.
call it
Rebuilding
retooling.
insinuates that you're going to tear something down, and I really don't think that they're going to tear this fucker down to the studs. Like Wendell Carter and Larry Markkinen are not in like imminent danger of being traded or anything. Anybody that's like 23 and under and still on their rookie contract, you're going to be evaluated. You're going to be given a fair shake to show that you do want to be here. I mean, Larry's up for an extension. I don't think he's going to get it, and that's something we can transition into. But like, these guys are going to be given the opportunity to show what they have and what they should be paid, or also to the rest of the league, if you want these guys, you can come get them if they show value.
Yeah, I don't want to call this rebuilding or retooling. This is just straight up building. This is ground level stuff. This is a blank canvas for AKME Billy, that triumvirate, to go from. That's your starting point. This isn't rebuilding. This isn't retooling. Retooling is what Gar and Pax tried to do and failed miserably. The Bulls are just, this is a fresh start, man.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I'm tired of trying to thread the needle with sports franchises. Let's not make this such a slim fit that it has to be perfect. Let's build from the ground up, establish a core of players that we can build from, and then add to it from the external side.
Yes. And get Zach LaVine out of here without resigning him. Anyway, so we need to move on to the rest of the NBA. I love this question.
Do you not want to talk about Markkinen for an extension?
Do you want to talk about Markkinen?
Well, I'm going to pose it to you guys. Do you think he's? Do you think? Do you, it's like a stalemate. Do you think they should extend Larry Markkinen?
No.
Not right now.
Okay. Why not?
Because he hasn't done anything to prove that he's worthy of an extension.
And the counterpoint there would be that his value is low, so you can probably get a bargain on him. So if they were to extend him for, all right, let's use the comparable that everybody seems to be using, even though he's not nearly as talented as Domantas Sabonis. 4 for 74 is what Sabonis signed for. You're not willing to do that, right? Because I'm not.
No,
not right now. This is the problem when you have Jim Boylen as your head coach. We have no, like, this is exactly the reason that we just talked about of like why maybe this isn't going to happen, because like why would you, are you going to look at his rookie year and just be like, we're going to give him a mid-level on that,
or February from like 2 years ago and just kind of try to linger on that?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, there's a lot of basketball that he's played too. It's not like he was this rookie, like he's been around, so the fact that he took such a dive is like, might not be his fault, but at the same time, Zach was putting up points. Chris Dunn played his way into a really good deal with the Hawks. So, I mean, I don't know.
Let me pose it to you guys this way, and you're going to hate this question, but we faced an extension last year at this time. Do you have more confidence? Who would you rather extend? Bobby Portis last year at this time or Larry Markkinen this year at this time?
Is death an option? I don't want either.
But seriously, like, which one, if forced to pick, which one did you have more confidence in? That is even a question, says something.
I wouldn't want to extend either, and that tells you a lot about the Bulls' drafting and development. The worst thing for me about Larry Markkinen is that we obviously saw his worst stretch of basketball last year under Jim Boylen, but his best stretch also came under Jim Boylen in February 2 years ago. So, like, I don't even know what we're getting.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you're paying for an asset that you're paying for Bitcoin. That's what you're doing. You're paying for something that could skyrocket by 1 million or could, be non-existent.
Regulated out of existence.
Right. So, I mean, I think the answer is no. Like, I think it's very clearly no, because there are so many unknowns. And like, if you're the front office, like, why are you going to tie yourself to a Markkinen extension right now? Why do you want that on your conscience 3 years from now?
As your first big move? Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it sucks for him, but you got to play better. Like Lou said, what is he showing you?
The risk that you run by not extending him, and it's not a huge risk, it's that he has a good year this year under Donovan, and then he could get offer sheeted next year. And offer sheets could mean a number of things. Someone could give him a 2 next year, 21 or 22. So here's the thing.
I mean,
The thing with offer sheets is that someone could give him, a big one. Like Otto Porter got a huge one from Brooklyn, and the Wizards matched it, and they were tied to that anchor, and it sucked. Or someone could come in and say, "Hey, we'll give you a 2-year offer sheet. That way, you can get out of Chicago faster if they match it."
I think we're asking the wrong question. I think we should be asking, is he replaceable? Can you replace his stat line with
Good question.
somebody else? I don't think the question is, should you extend him? Should you not? We don't know. Like, we don't have enough data to say, like, yes, we should. Yes, you run the risk of losing out on an asset that is under, cost control, like Zach's contract is, but you also risk that being your first big signing in the Chicago Bulls front office. And if you can replace that stat line, why the fuck would you want to tie your hand to that?
Yeah, I think the big thing about it's not even just the stat line, Myles. I think there's just so much intriguing upside potential. Like the term unicorn has been thrown around way too much in recent years with big white guys that can shoot the three. But there's not a lot of 7-foot white guys that can actually, like, Markkanen has a guard's release. He has a really good stroke. His confidence has been beaten out of him. But the problem with him is in today's NBA, we talked about this in the playoffs, guys. Who does Lauri Markkanen guard on the Miami Heat in crunch time?
Air.
He can't stay with any of those guys. Like, what is his position? Is he? Yeah.
It's a great question. And I think, going back to Boylan, like, he didn't change up his defense the entire year. I mean, they did that blitz mode the entire year, which I think really screwed up Lauri's development as a potential defense. He's never going to be a defensive guy, but, just learning the ins and outs of, like, where to put your feet. Like, he's lost all that in the past year, it seems like. So, I think we have our answer. I think that, to AB's point, yes, you might be losing out on some value, but I don't know what you're paying for. Like Lou said, who knows? Who knows what's coming back at you? So
yeah, we got our answer there. It's too uncertain. I agree. Too much risk.
Yeah, a lot of risk. Too much risk. Like, risk is okay, but I think that's too much risk, and I think that's where we're at. Okay, so I love this question proposed by AB, which is, with the free agency taking place, rather. Sorry, my brain is just crazy today. With free agency taking place, what has been thus far your guys' favorite move? And we can go around. Here. AB, you want to start off?
It can be a trade too.
Yeah,
it can be a trade too. My favorite move, though, so mine is actually gonna be kind of weird. I feel like I hope none of you are going to pick Montrez because I'm going to kind of shit on that for a second. I feel like that got too much play just because it was a shocker of him crossing the hall and stuff like that. But my favorite move,
it was just put into the media by Pat Bev. I think that's kind of why it got more play.
Yeah, no, you're right on that. But my favorite move so far has actually been Portland. It's not one move, but it's a combining of a lot. Like the depth that the Trailblazers have built there, like Jurkic has a legit backup in Cantor who can fill it up off the bench. Same skill set as Montrezl Harrell, doesn't make nearly as much. Derek Jones Jr. is I love that Derek Jones Jr.'s nickname is Airplane Mode, which is fucking awesome just because he can dunk, he's a freak, he can jump and all that kind of stuff. But like that as depth. They're bringing back Gary Trent Jr. Maybe Anthony Simons can finally develop as someone that can come in and play behind Dame. They brought Carmelo back, who's like their 11th guy on the roster now. I really think the Trailblazers have the depth next year, especially with what a lot of teams have done in the West in terms of like kind of taking a step back to be a threat next year.
Yeah. Portland's a lot of fun, man. That's outside of your obvious choices. That's the most fun team in basketball outside of your obvious choices.
Yeah, I mean, patented Blazer super fan, but I don't disagree with you. I mean, until Damian Lillard stops doing amazing things in the basketball court, I think he's the most exciting player in the NBA right now.
Probably the guy most likely to pop off for 50 on any given night.
And is that not exciting?
Yeah.
There you go. Too. Lou, what was yours?
So I loved the Harrell signing because it made for great meme content. The whole Pat Bev thing was hilarious. And I'm just like, man, y'all should have kept that Bumble sponsorship. Y'all just got ghosted.
Lou likes...
you got to go see that man in your building.
In the building, man.
It's hilarious.
Lou loves the NBA drama, I think, more than anybody I know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
what was your
just
favorite move,
so
Myles?
much fun.
All
How
right,
can
so
I not?
I got a couple different categories of favorite moves. So the first one, which is in the lower tier category, is the Taco Fall 2-way deal. Like, good for that guy, man. With the Celtics, like, honestly, like, good for
I
you.
like
Playing
it.
yourself into a deal. Like, yeah, you're just tall and you're a freak, but awesome. Good for you. What a nice guy to just get like
He's
a
like their
simple
fourth
2-way
center.
deal. Yeah. It just makes you feel good. You know, the guys can still, if they're not super athletic, they try hard and guess what? You get a 2-way deal. Good for you. My second one, this is like the second tier. The second one is Rajon Rondo to the Hawks. Maybe Rajon is going to be able to teach AB's guy, Trae Young, how to play some defense and how to be a point guard. I think it is a really, really shrewd, and I'm joking halfway because of how much AB hates Trae, but I think that this is going to be a really, really good signing, not only for the Hawks, but just Trae Young personally and his development. I think it's going to be amazing. The last one and the final one, I think the biggest signing that I've seen so far is Serge Ibaka to the Lakers. I think that is perfect for them. What did they
I mean,
have
the Clippers.
last year? Sorry, Clippers. They didn't have somebody of Serge Ibaka's offensive and defensive skill set that is that big, that's so versatile. Like, what do NBA teams look for now? Versatility, and Serge Ibaka gives you that in spades, especially with the deal that we just talked about with Harrell, going across the aisle. So I think like it's just such a big deal, and LA it's going to be a lot of fun to see this shit talking going on next year.
Man, so
I think
I love that move for a different reason. Like, you know me, like you just said, I love the drama. Could you imagine if things don't go well for the Clippers next year? You got Serge and Kawhi heading into free agency. Gosh, that could make for so
PG
much.
can opt out.
Yeah, it could cause for so much drama. I'm here for it, man. Like, even if the Clippers are like competitive and good, and they lose to the Lakers, woo.
Between the Clippers and the Rockets, there are two teams that are like standing on the edge of the fucking NBA cliff and looking down at their draft picks just falling to Sam Presti as he just collects all of them. And it's like, holy shit. Like, if you're not good this year and you trade away all of your existing, like, James Harden level talent, and for the Clippers, it's losing it in free agency possibly after this year. Those teams could be dreadful for a long time. And Steve Ballmer is a guy Steve Ballmer and Tillman Fertitta are going to just wreck shop in their fucking front offices if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, I don't know about the Rockets. I don't really know what their plan is, but it's very, very clear what the Clippers' agenda is. Like, written on the walls. They gave Serge the player option in year 2. Like, they are doing anything that they possibly can to not repeat what happened last year. I mean, they fired Doc Rivers
to hire Ty Lue.
NBA champion Ty Lue.
I know. Well, and it's weird that Doc's is longer ago. And actually, I think when Ty won his title, people were like, oh my God, worst coach to ever win a title. Doc is not a bad basketball coach. I will never say that about him. But I think Doc is a great man, but I think we're overrating his abilities to like bring a team. I mean, there's no doubt that the Clippers had a chemistry issue more than a talent issue last year.
To be fair, Doc's second star kind of screwed over his daughter, so right. I'm sure that had to do something with the chemistry issues.
There Lou is again, the NBA drama man. So we're running short on time here. Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
Biggest head scratcher from another team for guys?
Yeah, we're just gonna, you've
Should
got
we just talk about the Pistons?
I mean, what do you want to talk about?
Like, they signed 5 centers. 5.
Yeah, like exactly. Like, why they don't deserve to be talked about? Like, they very clearly have no idea what they're doing. Like, is Stan Van Gundy still there?
No, Troy Weaver was up for the Bulls job. Troy Weaver was up for the Bulls job.
Oh boy,
I'm pretty sure Eli wanted Troy Weaver.
What do you say, Lou?
Is Isaiah Thomas running that team and we don't know it?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like it's wild.
It's so weird. I mean, like free agency opens, they're the team with the second most cap space to the Hawks, and you're just like, oh, they signed Mason Plumlee. Oh, okay, whatever, fuck, whatever. Christian Wood is in a sign and trade for how much money to the Rockets? What the fuck is going on here? Wait, they're also bringing in. They drafted Isaiah Stewart 16th overall, which was way higher than anybody had them on their draft board. It's like they have all these bigs, and Blake Griffin's on the team. Like, is he going to be their starting fucking point guard?
I like it. Let's get weird.
He might be. I mean, he can handle the ball better than any of those other guys. Here's what it reminded me of. Like when I joined a new fantasy baseball league 3 years ago, I didn't do any research or really about the point system or the scoring or whatever. And relief pitchers and closers are like dog shit in this league. Like you don't even really need them. So I kept looking at the big board during the draft, and it's like all these really, really good closers were available. Like Araldis was available. Kimbrel was still available, like all these dudes at the time that were like top tier. And so I just kept drafting them. And I was like, I'm gonna flip them. And so it got to the end of the draft where I had 4 relief pitchers when you didn't really even need one. And the rest of the year I just got shit on because like all of my team was just like relief pitchers, and like that's where my capital was. That was where all of my trading power lied, and nobody wanted them, obviously. And that's what reminds me of the Pistons. Everybody should tell the Pistons, like, hey, by the way, you know that it's not a center-driven league anymore. Just as an aside, like we'll fill in the trade for you, but like this isn't going to go well for you. You know that, right? Like,
not only that, Myles, but when they come out of their tailspin, is this team going to be? Do they think like someone's going to call them and be like, "We will give you 3 first-rounders and 2 swaps for the last deal of Mason Plumlee's deal to put us over the top for the title this year"? Like, what the fuck?
Like, I mean, I can't wait to see them play. What's the
Bring
lineup?
that another team that isn't the Bulls is a laughingstock.
Like that's coach of the year, Dwayne Casey, by the way, running that ship.
That is true. That is true.
He's probably home just fucking with a baby bottle of bourbon right now, just being like, how the fuck do I coach this team?
Wouldn't you? God. Yeah. All right, let's close on this. So let's talk about there's 4 questions here that I think are really good. So let's start with which team improved the most in your opinion? Let's just go around quick here. We're running out of time.
Clutch Sports.
That's a good one. I like that.
That's the answer. I'm gonna say the Hornets because they had a really low starting point. They've got some interesting pieces, especially with Ball and if Hayward is healthy.
Yeah, I think Charlotte is just in terms of people in the room. Like Charlotte on paper probably increased the most of where they were with Hayward and Ball. I don't know if I can challenge that at all. I think the one that maybe has a better chance at winning now is the Blazers, like AB talked about. I think just with the work that they've done and the offseason that they've had so far, I think that's probably a pretty good one. But I think Lou is right. Like, who's going to improve the most on paper? Probably going to be Charlotte.
I think the Suns have a case.
That's another.
Yeah, Suns a good one too. That's a really good one.
Because it's not like they had a super low starting point, but like they were the team of the bubble, and now you've got Chris Paul running that ship with like options like Booker and Ayton, and they traded Oubre away, and they have a lot they can look forward to.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's probably the Charlotte of the West. You know, to be honest with you, it's 2 teams that have been in the basement for a very, very long time. Charlotte even more so, it feels like, just because they haven't had, like, when's the last time Charlotte had a superstar? At least, you know, the Suns have had those runs, you know, in the back.
Do you guys know the last time Charlotte won a playoff series?
It's got to be early 90s?
They were the Bobcats when they won a playoff series.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I think it's 2002.
That's still a long time ago.
Yeah, it's bad.
Did Kemba ever win a playoff series? I don't think he did.
No, he did not.
Yeah,
I don't know if Kemba made the playoffs.
I think he did. Actually, I'm positive he did at least once.
Just once?
I think they got swept by maybe. Doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about Charlotte anymore. Which team missed the bus? This is a good one.
Can I nominate the Bucks?
Yes.
I don't think it's a bad
this
one.
Bogdan Bogdanovic thing, like, this is fucking weird, guys. If they made and you traded 3 picks and 2 swaps for Drew Holiday, and now you're not going to get Bogdanovic.
That's what happens in the NBA when you have a superstar that has the potential of leaving a small market, and I know that AB talks about markets don't exist anymore in the NBA, but I think, I don't know. They're very, very clearly trying to go all in on this. They see the writing on the walls.
If Giannis doesn't sign that deal, man, that trade, like, I can't, at this point in the relationship, I cannot imagine that Giannis didn't have input on being like, yeah, I okay you giving the picks up for this. Like, we want to win next year. But I hope they got some sort of assurance that he's going to sign like a 1+1, or like what Paul George did in OKC, where it's like, I'll sign the extension, but if shit doesn't look right in 2 years, you have to trade me.
Would you? Would you say that? I wouldn't say that. I would say do whatever you have to do. I'm gonna go through my agent at the time and make the best business and basketball decision for me. Like whatever move you make has no bearing on what my decision will be in the future. That's exactly what I would say, because he has every right to say that, because he's top 1 or 2 best basketball player in the league right now, if not the world.
Yikes!
So if he's doing that, it's a bad business decision.
Okay. Who do you guys think missed the bus, Lou?
Yeah, it's the Bucks. I think Adam nailed it.
Really?
I think you're right. My other choice was the Pacers. Like, they couldn't get rid of Oladipo. They didn't get Hayward. They didn't really do anything. You're still stuck with Turner. Like, what was
it? Sounds like in that thing, Lou, that the Celtics said they didn't want 3 years and $56 million of Turner, and that's what stalled the Hayward negotiations. Like, that they chose Tristan Thompson over Myles Turner says a lot about where the Pacers are.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think you got to go with the Bucks. I think that's the top one because they're the East contender. Like the Miami Heat were not supposed to be in the NBA Finals last year. The Bucks were, and that is a failure on their part because that was their goal, and that was what everybody thought was going to happen. And when you put it out in the media that you signed a guy that technically hasn't signed because he didn't say he wanted to be there yet, maybe he would have. But if I was him, like, I would have done the same thing. Like, nobody told me that I was going to the Bucks. I'm going to decide where I want to go. And I know I'm a restricted free agent, so I know that I'm not guaranteed to get that, but I want say in what's going on here. Go ahead, Abby.
Well, I mean, the thing with this whole thing with the Bucks, I think it's really unfortunate. There has got, for all the other small market teams in the NBA, whether you're the Jazz or you're Memphis or somebody, the last team that anybody wants to see get penalized by a tampering investigation is a small market team trying to keep a superstar. Like, if you're the Knicks and you're tampering, trying to take a superstar away from someone, or if you're the Warriors and there was tampering with Durant, I'm not accusing anybody, but like, those are the types of things that people want to see investigated. If the Bucks get like some sort of draft pick loss or whatever, or like the contract would have been voided if that would have been the penalty, like, that sucks. Like, we go from an environment where nobody really gives a shit about tampering, because clearly last year, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving knew they were going to the Nets, and like nothing happened with that. But now we might potentially punish the Bucks. Like, an investigation has been open. There is a chance that there's going to be consequences for this, and that fucking sucks.
But I think it's different because this affected the player more so than it affected an organization, where
he's now RFA.
You might be. Yeah, it's RFA, but maybe teams that were going to make the phone call when they saw the news come out, maybe they didn't.
That's
like
true.
There's a lot of stuff that's affected the player in this situation versus the team. You can go back and talk about the nixing on the Chris Paul trade to CP3. You can talk about the superstar players going to the Nets most recently, and there's probably collusion there or tampering in some way. Like, tampering is almost accepted.
Team USA.
Yeah. I mean, like, tampering is almost like Rachel Nichols has talked about this before. Like, tampering is it's kind of a joke in the NBA because they just kind of pick and choose when they want to do it. This is a case where I'm all for it. I know it's a small market team, but this is a situation where you're trying to protect the player and not the business itself. Because the only reason why this came out is because reporters picked it up that the trade was going to happen. It wasn't confirmed by Brockton. He didn't agree to this. That's not his fault. It's not his fault at all.
I think the Bucks were also trying to signal something like, hey, we're trading for Holiday and we're going to do this sign and trade with Bogdanovich. We are signaling to the East and to Giannis that we are fucking serious about this. We don't care about these picks.
No doubt.
We are mortgaging our future, and we want everyone to know that this is going to happen. I get protecting the player, but like, he can't receive any more money from another team than the Kings could offer him. So the Kings were going to offer him a max deal for a 4-year,
Sure, but like at the core, restricted free agency means that you have a choice to go shop around your talents to another team. So he didn't get a chance to do that, and it's against what the Bucks did was against the rules.
Yes, it was.
And I know that tampering is, like I said before, they pick and choose, but I think this is the perfect example of when tampering, like a trade should not come out before a player knows about it when you're going into restricted free agency.
Happens all the time.
But it shouldn't happen. And I think in this case, when, like you said, the Bucks were very clearly trying to win the media battle, they knew that the Drew Holiday trade was going to happen. They're like, look, this is what we're doing. NBA, hear us roar. Other teams have made moves. We are the Milwaukee Bucks, and we are surrounding our superstar with the talent he needs to get to the finals because he didn't do it last year. And it backfired.
All right. On that, though, you guys name your top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference for next year in order as we sit here on November 24th. Are the Bucks in it?
Ooh, they have to be. They have to be. I mean, pick where you want them to be, but they're in there.
Bucks, Heat, Celtics, Nets.
Okay.
Nets. I mean, you have to say it because it's just Kevin Durant, right?
We haven't seen him play in 2 years, Myles.
But until we see him play, I think you got to say it, right? I think that's the list. Unless you want to get crazy and like.
What about the Sixers? Daryl Morey's actually put some really nice pieces. Like Seth Curry's going to be fucking good with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Real quick, can I just go on record and say, I got to find this episode where I said it, but I very, very clearly remembering when Dallas picked him up, I said, why the fuck didn't the Sixers sign him? I remember saying this. And look where he's at now.
I was calling it shot.
I called it. I got to find the recording. I want to play it next time. I swear to God.
But I mean, all right. So have we boiled it down to there's 5, and you guys are trying to put them in order. You got the Nets, you got the Bucks, you got the Heat, you got who did I miss for that you initially? Because the Sixers are on the the Celtics and the Sixers.
Celtics, yeah.
Mine is actually really easy.
Good.
Celtics, Heat, Sixers, Bucks.
God, you and Jason Tatum, you just get married already.
I honestly think that Gordon Hayward's departure is going to free up a lot of shit there, and I like the Tristan Thompson signing.
I concur. On the Jalen.
There's a lot of fucking, like, there was a cloud hanging over that team. That dude's first game was in Cleveland, and his foot was pointing towards his ass before halftime.
I mean, look, the Celtics are always trying to be this team of like, well, once we get rid of X, we'll be okay. Once we get rid of Kyrie, it was a dark cloud hanging over. Once we get rid of Hayward, we'll really, really figure it out. Like, fuck off, man. Like, if Jason Tatum is as good as everybody says he is, then that should be Jason Tatum's team. He has Kemba Walker, one of the best point guards in the NBA. He has Jaylen Brown, one of the best forwards in the NBA. Figure it out, man. Like I'm sick of this. Like, it didn't work out perfect for us. Like, no, you're the Celtics. You have 2 of the top best players in the NBA right now. You have Brad Stevens, the guy that you want. Why couldn't you figure it out with Gordon? Like that, I don't buy that. I'm sorry. My anger isn't coming at UAB.
I think they missed a huge window last year. The fact that they went to the East Finals last year and they faced the Heat and not the Bucks, like, they should have gone to the fucking finals last year. They were better than the Heat, and the Heat whooped their fucking ass.
This is what I'm saying. Like,
The Heat are a year older this year. I'm worried about that team. I really worry about teams that lose in a championship game and a championship series. They seem to come back the next year, and really, there's like a funk and there's a hangover.
Mm-hmm. There is.
I don't think if there's a team equipped to beat it, it's Heat culture and Jimmy Butler. But like, I just worry about them next year because I really think they're looking almost too far towards the future. With all this like 1 year plus one options, they're running it back this year. Is that good enough to win the East?
I can't wait to find out.
I think that they're doing the exact right move. What would you do? Blow it up?
No, I would not blow it up.
Those are your two options. Like you, so those are your two options. Is like you're either going to run it back or you're not, and they're putting themselves in a situation financially where they can have maybe some flexibility, like we've talked about before over text. Like they're not going to have the ability to add like a max player, but I mean, I think they're doing everything they can to put themselves in a situation to win. Now, can Jimmy Butler play 45 minutes a night? No, but you know that time's going to come when it comes. They signed him. That's the guy that they got. So, I mean, I have faith that they can figure it out. Like you said, if one culture can figure it out, it's Eric Spoelstra and the Heat. I think that they've earned that respect.
I don't know if we have any Canadian listeners, but are they going to be pissed we didn't mention the Raptors at all in the top four?
What like the team's gone. Gasol's gone. Ibaka's gone.
Well, they were in the top four. That's true, but they brought back Van Vliet. Siakam should theoretically get better. You know what? That team might have the best trade asset in the NBA because I bet a team like the Clippers would fucking love to have Kyle Lowry.
Shame they got nothing left to trade.
Yeah,
you could put Beverly in a package.
Exactly. All right, so let's wrap up this. You got to give an A grading for the Bulls offseason thus far. Draft, free agency. What grade are you giving them so far?
Incomplete.
Can't give them incomplete.
For not screwing up.
I'm going to give them a B.
They haven't done anything to make me mad yet. So yes. They got to pass. They got a passing grade for now.
Yeah, I think it's a B plus. You know, like they did not give out money they shouldn't have given out. They drafted a guy that they believe in, that they yeah, right, that's true. But they didn't give out more bad money. They didn't give out extensions willy-nilly. We talked about, marketing and the challenges there. They drafted a guy that has a pretty high ceiling, that's very, very athletic, that's young. I think that they're putting themselves in situations to be flexible. And like we've talked about at the top of just putting themselves in a situation to be not only flexible, but knowing what they've got in a way that isn't tearing it down, blowing it up. And we're just going to see what we got. Boylan's gone. Gar's gone. It's time to roll. See what we can do. B plus.
That's fair.
Passing grade.
B plus works.
All right, guys. Well, this was fun. It was good to catch up with you guys. As we get more and more basketball news, we'll continue to record here. But you guys have any final words?
28 days until the NBA is back.
Can't wait.
Jesus. It just ended.
I know. But you know what? I'm glad it's going to be back because we're going to need it to get through this winter, and I'm glad we're going to have it on Christmas.
Yeah,
yes,
it's going to be a winter, man.
It just snowed here in Madison today, so I'm already feeling it. But all right, guys, make sure to follow the following. There's a lot. Talkin Toros with no G. We got LCM 1986, which is Lou. Also, make sure to follow BN Bulls and BN Bears, Bleacher Nation. That's your one-stop shop for pretty much everything Chicago sports outside of hockey, because nobody really watches hockey except for Adam. Make sure to watch.
They're starting it.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. You can follow Adam at Souvenir City. I'm at mphelps11. Make sure to go to talkintoros.com. Stay safe, wear a mask, and that's it.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanksgiving. That's what I was looking for.